Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Smith, thank you for being here. In your prepared testimony, you discussed the DOZ's ongoing research and development in the carbon storage focused primarily on the permanent geological storage of captured CO2 from fossil fuel systems. But in your testimony, there's no mention of putting the captured CO2 to use in enhanced oil recovery. Similarly, the entire FY 2017 budget proposal mentions enhanced oil recovery only twice in the context of past projects. Given the potential for cost-effective carbon storage, can you explain why facilitating EOR is not included in a major part of the DOE's carbon storage program?
Well, thank you very much for the question, Congressman, and it's actually a really good one. So as we look at the necessity to get these projects moved forward and built, enhanced oil recovery is, I think, as important as it has ever been in terms of incentivizing these projects. If you take that CO2, you capture it, you put it into a pipeline and use it to produce an incremental barrel that otherwise would have remained in the ground, you can take that value and use it to pay for the project itself. In fact, we've got a major demonstration in the state of Texas, just south of Houston, the Petronova project with NRG, that's doing exactly that. It's a 240 megawatt project that's using enhanced oil recovery, and the total all-in economics of the recovered barrels are important for the overall project economics. Now, when it comes to research, I don't see a direct R&D role for the Department of Energy in terms of enhanced oil recovery. In fact, that's something the industry has been doing for decades and does very well. Now, as a methodology for taking that CO2 and putting it to beneficial use, I think that is tremendously important. One thing that we have proposed are tax credits for sequestration, so that there would be a tax credit that you'd receive for oil that goes into EOR. We think that's important to incentivize the activity to push those projects forward. But in terms of an R&D role, that has not been at the center of our program, simply because there's a very, very strong commercial drive for private industry to put research and development and activities and capital into that area. And in fact, the industry has gotten a lot better at it.
So your focus then for your research is just cost-effective storage and not necessarily looking at alternatives. I mean, the enhanced oil recovery, using the CO2 for enhanced oil recovery has been a very good thing for the oil industry, and according to you, is good for the environment as well. So if we're focusing on storage, then why are we not focusing more on, if it works in the oil industry, might work in other areas?
Well, it comes back to a question I had earlier, I believe from Mr. Grayson, about how we think about where we invest. We've got finite dollars, we've got a limited budget, so where do we focus those dollars? We want to focus those dollars on areas that have a benefit to the taxpayer, have a benefit to the nation in terms of energy security, job creation, environment, but are areas in which industry will not invest in itself. But for the involvement of the government, that this research wouldn't occur. So when we look at saline aquifers, for example, that's certainly an area in which we think that we do have to put a lot of effort. Otherwise, they're not companies that are lining up to do that research and development right now, simply because it's free to emit the carbon dioxide. Enhanced oil recovery, we think there's an enormous driver to invest in that research and development. In fact, we see companies doing that. So most of the R&D that we do is going to be focused on saline aquifer. We will say that the major demonstrations, however, are using enhanced oil recovery as the disposal method, simply because it's positive for the economics of the project. So we're getting some bang for our buck in terms of incentivizing EOR projects, but it's not a focus for our research. Again, simply because it's something that the private sector is running pretty hard on.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.